Hello, screenwriters, and welcome to Writing for Screens. Ask me almost anything. My name is Glenn Gers, and I operate the Writing for Screens YouTube channel. And most days I am here from Monday through Friday, if I can make it, at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time live to work on the step-by-step project in which I'm showing you step-by-step how I write a TV pilot script, just to give you a sense of my process. But every once in a while, like today, I just take a day off to just take questions. I've been piling up a bunch of questions that we've gotten over the past week or so, but also anybody who's here live, feel free to chime in and ask a question. If you are not live, if you are watching this in the recorded space, feel free to still ask a question by going to writingforscreens.com, which is my website, my personal domain, and press the Contact Me button, click it, and it will open up a little window that lets you send me an email. If for some reason you have something against email or websites, my website, you can just put the comment in the comment section. Ask me a question in the comments of this or any video here on my YouTube channel. So, hello, Javier. How are you? Javier, right? That would be right. Welcome. Glad that you are here. We are doing an AMAA today. Gonna answer some questions. And the first question, hello, Janae, how are you doing? So I'm gonna start with some prepared questions that I took during the course of the past week or so that I thought were worth spending a little time on. And in case you guys missed it, this is a chance to answer them. But also, you guys who are here, please feel free. Hello, Aspen Ruins. That's new, runes, not ruins. Good to see you. Welcome, Natasha. Good. Got people here who can ask questions. I like questions when I'm doing questions. That's important to have people here who can ask me the questions. But we're going to start with one that I got from Bernard S. And I am so glad. The question from Bernard was, how do you create a voice, a different voice for every character? We all hear that that's a really important thing to do, that every character should have their own voice, but how do you do that? Janae is doing amazing, and I am glad. Good. We should all be doing amazing sometimes. Life is full of ups and downs, and it's good to have some amazings. All right. So voices. Voices is a really big, hard, complicated thing, and I wanted to sort of lay it out. I'm gonna show you this card a couple times because there's a bunch of aspects to the voice of your character. And the first one, top of the list there, is the language that you use. So if you just start to think about how would this character speak in terms of what kinds of words would they use, what kind of person are they, what kind of world do they come from, and therefore how do they talk? Different people raised in different places or having chosen different paths in life will have different vocabularies. They'll talk a different way. They'll have different slang. They'll have different methods of speaking, and that's the language that they use. It really helps to make them different. I mean, you don't have to use like dialect, but you do have to kind of think in terms of the way the person lives, of where they're from, of what era it is, of what work they do. All of those things will change the kind of language they use. And very often, there's lots of different words for one thing. There's different words for walk. You could say he went. You can say he goes down the street. Yeah, he was going down the street. Or you can say he was walking to the store. Very different ways to say the same thing. So that's the first thing that you have to think about is what kind of words, what kind of language would this person use? What kind of education did they have? What kind of things do they listen to? Because what you listen to, who you hang out with, will affect how you speak. And every character has got that. Somebody who's been in the military a long time will tend to speak in a way that's based in the military's way of thinking and presenting things. Plus, use a lot of military jargon or even just catchphrases like outstanding, which tends to be something that is often said in American military training. So therefore, you get used to hearing outstanding, and you would say it. Whereas, honestly, I don't know that I've ever said it in my life. Like, I've never seen somebody like do something, go, oh, outstanding. Just I go cool because I grew up in the 1960s. So that is the first element of giving your character a voice, is the language. And then there's the mechanics of the dialogue, the mechanics of how they talk. And by mechanics, I mean the writing mechanics, the ways that you can change how sentences are written. So one of the things is very simple, long or short sentences, complex or simple sentences. A simple sentence has a verb and an object and a subject, and they're just like, Joe went to the store. I'm going to get some scrambled eggs. Those are simple sentences. When you combine thoughts, it's called a complex sentence. You do not need to know grammar for this. This is just stuff you hear. You'll hear somebody will say, I'm going down there because I'm tired of this. Well, that's two thoughts. They didn't just say, I'm tired of this, and then walk away. And they didn't just say, I'm going down there, and not say why. They made sure to announce why. Other people will very often use flourishes and phrases to sort of couch what they're saying, to say, well, to be honest, that's a certain kind of thinking. It's a mechanics of dialogue. And you can choose what kind of mechanics you're going to use. Now, sometimes these things are not things you choose rationally. Sometimes you just, like if you've been watching in the step-by-step project, yesterday, it was episode 91, if you want to see it. I was working on the dialogue for one of the characters, and I kept on writing these short, broken up sentences. And I suddenly stopped and I said, wow, I didn't know she talked that way. But as I'm trying to figure out how she is getting an idea across, it started to come across in these broken up sentences because she was still figuring things out. And so she was saying, I do this because of that, but then there's this. And they were broken up little pieces instead of carefully wrought out thoughts. That's the mechanics of how she speaks. It's the language mechanics, the grammar. But you don't need to know grammar. You just have to listen. You just have to listen to how people honestly talk in the world and listen to other dialogue. That is the best way to learn how voices work. Notice how other writers create the voice of their character. And as much as possible, glom onto it. Try to become a mimic, to say, oh, yeah, he talks like this, da-da-da-da-da, and he talks ba-ba-ba, ba-ba-ba. There's a difference to the way people speak, and that creates the voice. Going to take a moment out to say hi to everybody. Hi, Ricky. Good to see you. Word charm. I just answered your comment the other day. I'm so glad that you are here. You are more than welcome. Lisa SS, how are ya? And Matthew, cool. Okay, I will get to your question in a second, Kirby, because that's about a selling question. I'm still on dialogue because this is important. How do you create a voice for each character? Okay, so we first talked about language and mechanics. Those are the two things that are yours. That's the writer's job. And once again, I cannot emphasize enough. Yes, the more that you think about the tools that a writer works with, which is words on a page, sentences, paragraphs, the better. The more you learn about that. But you do not have to learn formal or proper language. You don't have to learn how a professor would say you should write something. You do not have to learn proper grammar. That does not matter in screenwriting. What matters is your ability to be aware of the different ways that these tools, these sentences, can be used. And you pick that up by watching a lot of movies and paying attention to how people talk. Okay, so the language and the mechanics, that's your stuff. But then you've got three things that are the characters, the worldview of that character, their worldview, their philosophy, their belief. If they believe that we are all being judged by a great power, then they are going to speak and think a certain way. They're going to phrase things, they're going to approach things that way. If they are saying, we're all going to die soon, let's have a party, that's also going to create a different voice. So it's not just the words, it's what's behind the words, what's causing the person to speak, what they think of the world. Are they respectful? Are they defiant? Are they all these things that are going to be about their personal view of the place that they are in? And that also brings up the style and method that they use. Like somebody who's got a street style in New York will have a very different street style than a street style in Italy, and very different than an academic style in Italy. And so you want to know what world are they coming from and what is their style. Everybody has a style. I have a sort of jokey, casual style for a teacher. Some teachers are much more formal and they say things like, one should do this. At least some teachers. Everybody has a style. Even in the chat, you guys are talking in different styles, different approaches, different ways that you write. Not a problem, Andrea. Okay, so that is the most important stuff that you can get, is the characters. Those last three items are the characters' qualities, the character's worldview or philosophy, the character's style or method of behaving, their manner. Are they rude? Are they impatient? Are they calm? Are they condescending? Whatever that is, that's going to lead you to give them a different style of line, of dialogue. And finally, what is their goal? What is their intent? When they are in a scene, they have something that they want. They have something that they are trying to do. Even if all they're trying to do is make fun of another character or show that they're not involved. Sometimes somebody's just sitting back making comments about something. Whatever their intent is for that scene will also give them a very specific voice. Are they advising? Are they warning? Are they worrying? That's going to give them a different voice than someone else who's proclaiming their plans. So, just to make sure you get this stuff, guys, this is important. If your character voices seem like they're all the same, try to look at these questions. The language you're using, the vocabulary and the phrases, the mechanics of the dialogue itself, the sentences, the way that you write it, but also the character's philosophy and style and intention. Okay, so that's a good one. We took care of that. Let me now get into some of the ones that you guys are asking, because you're here and asking stuff. Kirby, if you sell a script and it gets produced, but scenes or characters and or dialogue are cut from the movie, can you use the cut material? That is an interesting question. Tricky. If it is very, very distinctive and copyrightable, in other words, if it was a catchphrase, for instance, and the catchphrase is in the movie, but they cut out a part where, no, you can't. I would believe you cannot. This is a lawyer question. This is not a writing question, really. It's a legal question. But suppose, I have done this. Suppose you work on a project and they decide, like I worked on a story that was set in the future, and I had this idea for the way the future was. One of the things about it was all the plant life was gone. And so the world was very yellow and gray. It was they didn't use that. So I felt free to take that idea that a virus, instead of attacking people, had attacked everything with green photosynthesis and wiped it out. And I said, that is an idea that I can use somewhere else. It's not copyrighted. So the answer is, if there's a scene that is not clearly related to the other story, which frankly, if it is, I don't know how you could use it anyway. Yeah, you probably can use it. I wouldn't worry too much about using it. That would be my answer. Let me just, yeah, the characters cannot be all sounding like this themselves. Okay, next question. Word charms. How do you approach theme in your work? This is a good question. I will tell you, and since you're new here, I will alert you that I've got a whole video on theme. Oh, I don't have that, okay. I have a whole video on the subject of theme. I thought I had the thumbnail to throw up here, but I don't. Theme. It's, if you look on my in the tools, I believe it's tools and writing tools skills. There'll be one with I think it's a blue thumbnail, and it says theme in red. So that really gets into what I believe about theme. Roughly, I believe, yes, theme is always present, and you should think about it. It's a back and forth kind of thing. The theme comes out of your characters in your story, but you also make your story and your characters based in what you want to say, which is what the theme is what you want to say. So therefore, yes, you think about it all the time, but if you don't have it yet, it's not the end of the world. Work on the story, and then at a certain point, you'll look at the story in the outline or even in the script and say, what is this saying? But then you're probably going to have to make changes to what you've already written. Like I said, it's a back and forth. You come up with a theme, and then sometimes you choose things. You say, oh, well, this will demonstrate that theme. This will give that character a chance to speak that theme or to discuss it. But then other times you'll be like, this guy is going for revenge and it's not going well. And I want to say revenge should work. I don't know why you would say that, but if you wanted to say, then you would say, I'm changing these things to make this the theme. So the answer is, it is not a set step. Theme, like the script itself, is omnipresent, but not always determining. It is reflected often. Often things come out of the theme because the theme ideally is something you truthfully feel, something you believe, you want to truly say. So the theme can be a thing you think about later. If you're going gung-ho on a story and you just feel it and it's working, don't worry about the theme. I tend to get to a point where I'm like, as I'm figuring out the story, I say, what is this about? What am I saying here? What is this really about? Okay, this is about, somebody who's trying to change their DNA. Why? What does that mean about feelings, about humanity? And that will get me to a theme, which is a statement about an idea. So that is how I come up with theme. It can change. So first of all, you can have more than one theme. You can have several themes, and you sort of say, which one is the top one? Which one is the one that I have to make sure I get? But then the other times, sometimes I have other themes sort of running in conflict or support of that theme, or just an extra little thing that you're like, oh, cool, I got this on my mind too. All right. Blue Sky, I see your question, and I'm going to get into them. But first I'm going to do a quick, actually, this is interesting. Okay, hold on. Yeah, the Blue Sky is asking me about outlining. Can you share something? I can because, first of all, you should definitely, I'm sorry, I'm looking to see, I got to get all my thumbnails here because things keep coming up. There we go. I have two whole videos on outlining. Why you should do it and how I do it, in the hopes that will be helpful. Also, if you watch and I don't really think anyone should watch all those hours of the step-by-step thing, but but weeks and weeks of them we're doing the outline, so you can actually see me doing the outline. And the process I basically go through is I try and break it down into scenes, and very often you'll get like, I think I know what this scene is going to be. I've got a good sense. I don't ever start writing if I have sections where it's like, I don't even know what this scene is. I don't know what's going to happen here. But if I have a good sense of what I think the scene is, very often when I start writing the script, I will hit a scene and I'll be like, I really don't know what's happening here. I thought I did. I know that I've got to accomplish this point, but I don't know how I'm going to do it. And so I'll stop writing, go back into the outline, and just work on the outline of that one scene. Just spend some time figuring out the shape and the purpose of that scene, to say who is doing what in this scene that begins and ends here. And so then when I've got that, I will then go write that scene. So it's kind of a back and forth, but I outline every single scene before I write the script, because otherwise I just don't know what to write, and I just get lost. It is so easy to get disheartened, to get to feel frustrated or bad because there are too many choices and you don't have a reason to do one thing over the other. And that's what the outline is. The outline is sort of that choices. You're making choices. And this one I definitely know I have. Hold on. Okay. Writing is making choices. Seriously. You have no idea how much that is the job. The job is, I could do this, this, or this, or I have a scene here and I don't know what to put into it. I have to make some choices. I have to choose for this character to kill that character. I have to choose that that's going to make the rest of the story a tragedy. Cool, that's a choice. Once I've made that choice, a whole lot of things get wiped off the board and you can only go a certain direction. That's the power of making choices in the outline. Instead of saying, I'm afraid to plan too much. Don't be afraid to plan too much. You can't plan too much because there's always going to be other things that you have not figured out. But on that note, we had a question on outlining character arc, the beats. It was from Jose, and he said, do you recommend putting in the character outline every emotional beat of the scene? Like is the character going from sad to getting sadder in the next scene, but happier in the next plot point? So the answer is yes. I actually think it's a good idea to really think out each character's emotional story in every scene. Sometimes you don't need to do too much conscious thinking because it's just obvious. It's like, oh, this guy is out for revenge, and now he's got an opportunity to get close to the person who he wants to revenge upon. I kind of know how he's feeling, and then, he suddenly sees that they're, taking care of their kid, and he has that's a moment. I get that. So I don't need to necessarily write it down in the outline because it just seems obvious to me. But I do believe that in an outline, you need to think out what the characters are doing. Hold on, I'm going to open up the outline for the... here we go. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Here, in this outline, I will sometimes write down... Oh, where is it? Okay, like this. This is their character. I put in the outline as what they're feeling, what they're wanting in this scene, in this sequence. And I try and tell myself that so that when I'm writing the scene, I don't get distracted by some cool nuance that will take the scene off base. So in most scenes, you'll see I will have a goal here. I will have a point at which I am, and I put it in this notes format, this centered purple with a different typeface, so that I can see it. See, she does not want to let in feelings. Now, I need to keep in mind that's where she is right now. So that's what I do to put the emotional arc into my outline, where I won't forget it, where I won't lose it next time when I'm 6 scenes down and I've forgotten what I'm going to do in 10 scenes later. It's good to have gone through it once, and I do it by tracking each character. And this one, I bet I do. Yes. Okay. I've done a video on this called Building Character Arcs. And the answer is, yeah, each character, they're in their own movie. They're in their own story. They are not saying, oh, I need to do this because the writer needs me to do it. They're thinking, I'm trying to build a home, and this person is stealing my land. Whatever it is, they are that. The person who's stealing the land is saying, I'm trying to build an empire, and this dumb squatter is in my way. They have totally different emotional arcs meeting in one scene. That's the whole way that drama happens, from building character arcs. And yes, I put them in the outline. But then Jose asked a second question, which I thought was worth also discussing. So the answer is yes, by the way. I believe you should try and plot out each character's emotional story, their private, personal journey through your movie. But at the same time, Jose also said, let me get this. I have also seen that movies have the same emotional pattern. Each character gets frustrated or sad in a reversal. In a happy story, it gets happier in the beginning with this new truth, etc., etc. So he was saying, and Jose has heard, and many teachers teach this, that there is some universal story, some outline, some basic, this is the story that all other stories fit into. That's just not true. That is nonsense. I'm sorry. The great Joseph Campbell, who wrote a book which has been widely misunderstood, called Hero with a Thousand Faces, was an attempt to find a universal story in mythology. And that was a mythological and psychological analysis, which was trying to talk about an idea, but to suggest that every written story follows that model is not true. It's not even true. It's not even true in the myths that he analyzed. He wrote 4 other books called The Masks of God, which analyze all sorts of different mythologies. And you can see right there that the Hero with a Thousand Faces is an attempt to wrestle a lot of stories into one proto-story. There is no such thing. There are many stories, and they do not all have the same pattern or style or structure. Then this guy named Christopher Vogler, very well intended, took the Campbell thing and further messed with it. He further took it away from the reality in order to try and give everybody some safe way to operate artistically, to say, okay, this is the rule of art. There ain't no rules of art. There are no rules that apply to all art. None. Because different people want different things from art. Different cultures use art for different reasons. It's just too complicated. It's like life. So therefore, the answer to, is it true that all movies have the same emotional pattern, is no. and the teachers, while they are trying to do a nice thing, what happens is they look at a bunch of successful movies and they said, look, they all follow the same pattern, which they all did because they were successful in the same motion picture industry, for the same culture, for the same business. The idea that somehow or other that's universally true is ridiculous. The fact that a lot of movies had big box office does not mean that they are somehow universally true. There's a lot of movies that are super good that were not successful and are not applying to that theory that are great. And there's a lot of things that aren't movies that are stories that don't follow those methods at all. So teachers, in trying to figure out some way to teach you how to succeed as a writer in a business, have mistakenly made the claim. And I say this because I believe that they are well-intended. I believe that they do not mean to screw with you, but they are telling you an untruth. They are telling you something that ain't so. Okay. Scenes and sequences. By the way, this is covered in Thinkin' Scenes, one of my videos. I'm going to become increasingly tiresome as I discover that many of the questions I've given a really good answer to in some of those lesson videos. These live videos are fun. They're talk. They're a way to give and take and to explore things. But I really urge you to look at those lesson videos, the ones with the big type like this, because those are the ones where I've really tried to give you in 10 minutes a firm set of tools that you can use. The answer with scenes and sequences is a scene is an interaction between characters or between characters and their world in a specific set time and place. When you change time or place substantially, you are changing scene. But more important than that, when you change action. A scene is a dramatic action. It's an attempt to accomplish something. Someone is entering that time and place with something that they want, and we are following that. They want to break into the vault. They want to scout out the vault. They want to protect the vault. Whatever's going on, that scene will have a specific action about that. A sequence is a set of scenes which have connected action. For instance, a battle. A battle could have many different scenes where different people are doing different things in this big event, but the overall thing is a sequence which has one action, which is the battle. Will they win or lose this battle? A chase, a wedding, a dinner party. Those are sequences. They are scenes related by being about a single action. That is my definition. The other important thing you should know is there's no rules about this. There are no actual authorities about screenwriting. There is no right or wrong book. There are things that are industry standard. That's constantly changing and people break it all the time. But most stuff is just what people think. There are no firm, concrete definitions for almost everything in screenwriting. It's one of the most astonishing things. Yay, I was helpful. How do you choose a point of view for a scene or a story? Well, this is tricky because this is a very different thing in fiction writing and screenwriting or playwriting, because dramatic work, dramatic narratives, plays and movies especially, you don't go through a point of view in one sense. You are always looking at the action, and so unless you're actually in somebody's point of view, like the camera is in their point of view, you are watching someone. What does happen though is there is a character who is central to the action of that scene, and that's how I would choose the point of view. In other words, to say this scene is about this guy trying to, as I said, break into the vault. If he's trying to break into the vault and he's your main character, or he's your villain, or whatever it is, for whatever reason, the most important person in that scene for your purposes is how you choose that point of view. Point of view is really the person you are following. There is no actual point of view. In fiction writing, you can write in someone's point of view. You literally write what they're thinking. In screenwriting, you can't do that. So you don't really, like, when you choose a point of view for a story, if you're choosing a point of view, you're sort of saying who's the main character of this scene? Who is the one whose action the audience is paying most attention to? And saying, I am curious what's going to happen with that goal. They want something. They want to see what's going to happen to that other couple. That's cool. That may be their goal. If so, they probably have something riding on it. They probably care about that in some way. But maybe not. Maybe they're just observing and making fun of them. I don't know. Every story is different. But the main thing is there is no such thing really as point of view in screenwriting in the same way that there is in fiction. Prose writing, you can go in and out of people's minds. Point of view in screenwriting is really choosing who is taking the main action, whose concerns are we following. And usually that's determined really by story. You know, whose story are you telling? Which gets into... you should try this one. The main question is whose story is this? Who is it about? Okay. Yes, it is true that activity is not action. I am just on a roll here. Watch this. Dramatic action. I'm just pointing you to videos because I did all this work for the past 2 years of making these things, these 10-minute lessons that try to focus on these concepts. Action has to do with a character trying to accomplish something, trying to do something. That is literally where the word drama comes from. It's from the Greek to do. I'm going to do something. And that is what action is. Now that doing something can be, I'm going to worry. You could have a scene where somebody's worrying and they're expressing their worry to other people's and eventually pissing them off and they get thrown out of the room or something. But it does not, action can often should always be the interaction of people with each other or with the things in their world. The other thing that's really important to remember is that dialogue is action. Do I have this written down? I think I do. No, I don't. Okay. Dialogue is action because when somebody speaks, they are trying to get somebody else to do something or feel something. They're trying to get something in that moment. And therefore, dialogue is one of the best actions you can have. If you think about your average day, most of your action is dialogue, is talking to someone. Most of what you do is talking. What I'm doing right now is the action of dialogue. Okay, so I'm going to take a break from your questions, although there's so many. This is amazing. But I do want to get to, this is really cool. I read this article in Backstage Magazine. Hold on, let me see if I can find the name of it. Yeah. It's by a guy named Asher Grodman. And he talked about this quote that he had read from Philip Seymour Hoffman, that you allow things to be out of control in a structure. In other words, the whole point, and the way that Asher Grodman said this was, he was talking about being an actor and how brutally out of control you feel on a daily basis. You're auditioning, and he said, the rejections and heartbreak will hurt, but when you find your rails, the structure that allows you to embrace chaos, and that just knocked me out. I'm going to see if I can, hold on. Yeah, here we go. The structure that allows you to embrace chaos. Think about that. That is what you are doing. That is what you are trying to do. To try and find a form, a process that lets you get to the truthful, impulsive, emotional, lifelike chaos of our experience. That's the game. It's not all about structure. It's not all about feeling. It's a balance of the structure that allows you to feel the chaos, to find the chaos that is particular to you. So I just wanted to talk about that for a second. Software are you using? I'm broadcasting this on a thing called Ecamm. I write scripts on final draft, but you do not have to do that. You can, here, hold on. If you look at this, I talk a lot about how you can format in any word processing. It's not a big deal. And then right now, I just use Pages, the word processing that's on my Macintosh computer, because I like Apple, and I have grown up with it. And so that's what I use. All structures have the structure of a start, middle, and end. Yes, that's true. That's like saying all pictures have a frame, which is true. All pictures are in some way defined, except, well, I mean, if it was a room installation, then the frame would be the room. Yes, all structures have stories have a beginning, middle, and end. I don't even know that. You don't need to worry about that in the sense of like all structures should have this. You're going to have it. You're going to have it because your story is going to start and it's going to end, and whatever happens in the middle is going to be in the middle. So therefore, that one works out. You don't have to worry. So that, there you go. To say all structure, that's like, if you get grand enough, yes, you can probably find an all stories have. Although I don't know, do they all have? Some don't. Some of the never-ending story, in a sense. Although eventually it'll end, Okay, let me just start as the middle begins. Yes, exactly. Yes, I would say that it is absolutely basic. Beginning, middle, and end is basic story structure. That is completely true. It's also so broad as to be not entirely helpful. And I don't mean that like what you're saying isn't helpful. I'm saying that for the people who are saying all your, like you should structure your story like this, that's what I'm saying is a problem, is when somebody says all stories should have a midpoint where you have a low point, that kind of thing. That's what is not all stories. Yes, absolutely. All stories have a beginning, middle, and end. I think that most people will find that they naturally run into that problem. And yes, you find yourself saying, I'm turning to the end now from the beginning or the middle, from the middle. But what you can't say is that should be a certain length. You can't say, oh, the part where you're getting to the end could be 30 seconds. It could be that you're in the middle and all of a sudden, boom, the ending happens, which actually happens in Monty Python and the Holy Grail, just to show you. Monty Python and the Holy Grail, just boom, the ending comes pretty much out of nowhere. And that's legit. That's the end. The section that is the end of Monty Python and the Holy Grail, just a little sliver of the story. The middle is really the whole thing. So let me go back because I've missed some. On film courage. Share a story about your first script, the one about the divorce and struggle. Yes. Yeah. Yes. No, this is okay. That's okay. As far as making enormous changes that change your entire story, that will happen sometimes. It really will. In fact, it has happened to me. It happens to you a lot, actually, when you're working professionally, because they'll tell you to. They'll say like, hey, that part that's at the beginning? We want you to make the whole story that and throw out the rest of it. And you're like, I don't understand. I literally have no idea what you're talking about. And one of the things that you want to learn as a professional is the ability to do that, to say, okay, I'm going to take this thing that I thought was the side of the story and make it the whole of the story. Or I'm going to take this story and cut it in half, or God knows what else. That is a part of the writing process. The one thing I can say about it here is the more you do it, the better you get at it. If you've written 20 scripts, it's easier to do that than if you're just on your first. So one of the things you want to do as a writer is get through a bunch of scripts. I was thinking about Stephen Sondheim recently passed away, and he was talking about his education as a writer. And he said that Oscar Hammerstein gave him an assignment. when he was 14 years old, 15 years old. He said, write 4 musicals. One was an adaptation of something he thought was bad. One was an adaptation of something he thought was good. One was, I can't remember what they all were. One of them was an original. The point was that you need to try different forms and have the experience of shaping a story different ways in order to feel the professional strength to be able to make those changes, to be able to look at it both personally and artistically and mechanically and professionally. Because that's the job of an artist, is to be able to keep both of those things going in your mind at the same time. How do you brainstorm an idea by the way, hi Ricardo, to catch your attention? Well, who's you? Brainstorm an idea to catch your attention, you as the artist. I've actually, I did a whole video on brainstorming. And I would definitely suggest you look at that. But the basic process of brainstorming is to let yourself freely associate on a narrow topic. And then, as far as catch your attention, I'm not sure if you mean your own artistic, like to say, oh, I like that more than that. And that's a question of practice. Just saying, trying to be open to your own feelings. Listening to your own feelings is really important. And I talk about that a lot in this video. Damn, it's like an infomercial for myself. But the other thing is, if you're talking about how to catch other people's attention, if you're catching the attention of the business or of producers or stuff like that, partly you have to research. You have to say, what do you think at this moment they are looking for? Or what do you think they need to see? You have to make that choice. And once again, writing is making choices. There isn't a right answer to that. If there was, everyone would do it and no one would make things that don't get made. There's no way to know what someone else will like. So I advise you to do things that you like, that you think there is a place for, and hopefully someone else will think that. If they don't, at least you did something that you like, and that's kind of important when you spend, a year on something. No, a chapter in a book and a scene are very different, because in a chapter, you can have several scenes. A chapter is a structural unit. A scene is a dramatic unit. A scene is an action by a character in which they have a specific thing they are trying to do. A chapter can often have many of those. So a scene, really, really, really look at, think in scenes. It will help. Okay. Oh, look at this. I'm fantastic. Thank you, Knight Rider. And thank you, C. Merritt. I appreciate that. Okay. With dialogue, how much stage direction? As little as possible, truthfully. You do not want to tell the actors how to act. Do not tell the actor how to act. Sometimes, if the dialogue could be interpreted many different ways, and you want them to know how the character is feeling, you can direct that. You can stage direct that. You can say, she is miserable. And then she says, I'd love a glass of champagne. Well, that's a useful stage direction. To tell people how to act, do not do it, ever. Do not, in general, don't say something like they say it quickly. Unless it's not evident from the scene, they may find a better way to do it. You do not want to tell actors. For one thing, they're just going to cross it out. I swear, if you look at acting books and teaching, they'll say the first thing you do is cross out all the stage directions and figure it out for yourself. All right. Hi, Luigi. How are ya? Cute picture there. Cool. Okay, great. Yes, this is yes, but not necessarily in that order. Yes, Godard, because Godard's nuts, but in a great way, because whatever order you put them in, the end's going to turn into the end. So if you put the beginning at the end, that's not the beginning anymore. Yeah. You're welcome, Bernard. Good to see you. Okay. Okay. Sorry, I'm just reading through the chat. You guys have chatted so much. It's so cool. Okay, well, I'm going to just mention this. Oh no, my camera just died. I hate when that happens. Oh, look at that. Yeah, this happens sometimes. I apologize. There we go. We're just gonna use that for now. Okay, so started writing as a teen, gave up after negative criticism. This is what I want. Struggling to write. No. This is so true. All of you should know this. Struggling is part of writing. It's just part of the game. It's part of the biz. All right. Yeah. Writing on the staff. That is a whole other thing. Hey, I'm sorry, guys. This camera seems to be... There we go. Okay. How do you connect emotionally with the characters? That's get to be really, really good at your own writing. Get to be a real expert at your tools and your skills. Write a bunch of stuff, and then you can work your way into learning the professional end of it. It's very different. It's very difficult. It's very weird. It is so hard. I spent literally decades trying to get into the profession, and then I got into it. And it's like, oh, this is not at all what I thought it was. It was cool. It's great. It's an amazing thing to have this job, but it's not being an artist. It's being a worker, an art worker for a business. And in order to be an art worker, you better be really, it's like if you're going to be an electrician, you better know how those wires work. You better know the rules of what you can and can't plug into things. So I urge you to work on that stuff, to work on your tools and your skills and your craft, and then, look at that, and your process. That's it. Work on your tools and your skills and your process, so that you can be good at whatever comes your way in terms of the demands of the world. You can't control anything but those things. Hello, Dance Fitness. But it's good to see you. Well, thank you. I am really glad. I'm just going to do a couple of quick other ones because then we got to get out here. I got this question, and I wanted to just say it to make sure we get to this, because it was Janae. Janae asked me this. Janae's here. Hi, Janae. Cool. So Janae wanted to know whether you had to introduce your main character in the first scene. And once again, you get these thank you, Merritt. You get these people teaching you things as absolute rules. You have to do this. You have to introduce them on page 10. You have to introduce them on page 1. The first thing you have to do. No. You can. It's good to know all of these possible structures, these possible rules that somebody has succeeded with, or that you like in something. But there is no absolute necessity to introduce your main character at the the first thing. Sometimes you sort of take a while to get to them because you're setting up other things in the world. That's okay. And in fact, because there's often many, I once wrote a script called Off Season, which won an Emmy Award. I'm very proud of that. And it was a mess, according to the rules. One of the main characters, there was a lot of main characters, but one of them didn't come in until page 50, and everyone was working on it. I mean, because I sold it after a while. It was not easy to sell, but it was good, and the producers and the directors were like, "Isn't it weird that he comes in so late?" And I have to tell you, the structure is brilliant, but it is not conventional. But we have enough other things going on, so that's why it was okay to do that. There were enough other main characters, and then he was like a new level. It was like entering a new world. So I did that totally against the rules. So there is no rule about when you have to introduce your main character. Just remember that if you go too long without introducing your main character, they're going to choose somebody else. The audience is looking for the main character. They're looking for someone to follow. And so if you give them other people, they're not the main character, they're going to start to invest in whoever they meet in the first bunch of scenes. So those people better matter in some way. In Fracture, which I did not originally structure, but I wrote many drafts of, we spend 15 minutes with the villain and this other guy and the other characters, and then we don't meet the hero until 15 minutes in. And that was another one where we're like, should we move that? Should we have... But it just works, because if you're really, really invested in the villain, and the villain is going to stay the villain, that's cool. Not a problem. Okay. This is a great question, Jenna. Thank you. I am not currently, but I will be. At a certain point, I am going to stop doing these videos sometime next year, likely. And I'm going to write a novel. I have been working on novels since I was a teenager, and I have one that's outlined, but I never had the time to focus on it. So but while I'm doing this teaching thing, I wanted to just be doing this teaching thing. So I'm not doing any writing, which is, by the way, the first time in my life that I have not been writing something. And frankly, the only reason I've survived it is because I started doing this step-by-step thing. So I'm kind of writing something, once a day. But from the time I was maybe 11 years old until I was 62 last year, I was always writing multiple projects. And it was a healthy thing to say, what's it like to not be doing that? What happens? What is your brain off drugs? So that's what I have been doing. Yes, we have to be tinker, writer, worker, tailor, completely. All right, so that's it. I got one last, I shouldn't. We've been running an hour, and I think I'm gonna stop here. No, actually, we've been talking about characters. Let's just talk about this one. How do you make relatable characters? This is tricky. Relatable is one of those words. It's a word within the industry, especially. They used to say likable about 20 years ago. Likable, and you would get these people who would just say, "Well, I don't think that character is likable," and the standard by that is, did that individual like that character? That's the only thing. That's how you know if something's likable. If somebody likes it. But aspirational was the other one. Like, do we admire? Do we want to be like this character? And the answer to that really is, when you get to relatable, which is probably the best formulation of this thing. Aren't most things in a human character relatable? And can't you relate to whatever they are going through emotionally? So the way to make a character relatable is to really focus on what they want, who they are, what they are trying to do. Once again, I'll just say, I believe these 6 questions will help you. Who is it about? What do they want? Why can't they get it? Those are the questions that make something relatable. You can relate to someone wanting to kill a bad guy. You don't want to kill people. I mean, you might want to, but you're not going to. You can relate to someone who's a con man. You can relate to someone who's a coward, who's trying to overcome a horrible anxiety. You can relate to all of these things, even if you're not them. That's the whole purpose of narrative art, is to find in the character that emotional truth which you also have in yourself, that you can find a piece of, even if it's something you're not going to do, even something you've never experienced. You can find the emotional part of you that connects to that character. And if you do that, and if you focus on that, and if you try and explore that, the character will be relatable. That is so good. I'm going to stop with that. That's it. Everybody, I really appreciate this. You've been a blast. This has been so much fun. Go write something. There we go.